chance to seal it. It's done. It's Georgie Kelly. Rotherham United's pathway back to the Championship is opening up.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. Here we go again. Third round exit again. A defeat again. Lots of goals conceded again. Rotherham United, ladies and gentlemen. We'll pick through the afternoon, transfer murmurs and any other nonsense that we can pick up that is Rotherham United related at the moment. Danny's with us. How are you doing, Danny?
I'm all right, thank you. It's going to get some getting used to me being in the top right of the screen for a change.
Would you like me to change it for you?
No, it's all right. I feel powerful up here.
You're in mixed space, so we all expect a really long rant from you today. So no pressure.
I've had a good day today. I don't think I can rant.
And Will Daniels is back with us. How are you doing, Will?
I'm really well, thanks, gents. Thanks for having me back.
Pleasure. No Mick tonight. Mick's off doing something early, back for the next episode, probably, if we allow him back on, that is. As we mentioned, a 4-1 defeat to Ipswich Town. We all sort of expected a tough afternoon. Maybe it was worse than expected. I don't know. I mean, how it sort of went against expectations. Danny, we always try to find the positives, and there was about 10 minutes worth of positivity in the second half. So let's focus in on that for a little minute. After half-time, we got the penalty, and there was a bit of press. There were a bit of aggression and a bit of getting in opposition faces. And it worked for 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. It worked. So there's something there, but needs more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There was that little spell where it was like, hang on, we're pressing the ball here. We could do something here. And let's remember as well, we technically scored first, even though it was offside, which... Anyway, so yeah, like I say, that little bit of a pressing spell, like, here, if we get a hold of a sense, we could get a hold of this game as well. And then it's as if the string just unravelled in front of us. And I mean, it wasn't really an FA Cup classic, but it were a game that had 3 penalties in it, and then the guy who left on a free coming back and scoring a goal against his old club. So. It's one for the journalists out there, but it was a bit of a day, wasn't it? Because that's now the second time we've conceded 4, and the worst thing is it was to a League One team, and then the same League One team came out and said that wasn't the Championship test. Our Championship test is Burnley. Sound. I had to hold myself on Twitter replying to that one.
They get 2 challenges. They get probably the worst team in the Championship, and then probably the best team in the Championship next round. So for them, it's a good challenge, a good test, I suppose. Well, let's focus on that spell because I thought it was good. I thought we put Ipswich under a bit of pressure, and they didn't like it. You could see instantly they didn't like it, and that's more of what we're used to. So where's that? I don't know. You're not going to know the answer to this, but where's that come from? Because weren't in the first 45 and it weren't for the last half an hour. It's strange that it was just in a really short spell after half time.
I thought there were moments in that first half where we tried to get the ball wide and put crosses into the box, which is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was a step forward from what we've seen previously. So there were signs of improvement. As you say, we scored the penalty and sort of had our tails up for 10 minutes or so, pressed them really well, and had a little bit of belief in our play. And then we decide to take Peter Chioso off and change shape a little bit, and the game unravels. And taking nothing away from Ipswich, by the way, I think Ipswich are Championship team in waiting. You can see what quality and depth they've got as well, that they were able to fetch off the bench, which sadly we don't have at the moment for a number of different reasons. And they put us to sword for the last 20 minutes or so, but we absolutely fell apart. But yeah, those 10 minutes, that looked like a Rotherham United side that was getting back to what we have done previously. But sadly, over the last 2-3 months or so, we haven't seen that enough.
No. Bang on. Let's go through a few comments of people with us. Kim Hayward, Noel Jordan, Adam Hardcastle, Dave Lawton's with us. Sean Green, Simon Thorne, Graham Lindley. Adam Hardcastle says mix off on a scout potential signings.
Not for us though.
That's about a budget, I think, at the minute. Yeah. Another bit of positivity. Paramount UK says Victor. The news was it wasn't done, Danny, when we spoke on Thursday, but it was essentially done. Vic's been confirmed. Victor signed what is essentially a 2-year extension to his contract. That's a massive positive. That's a massive step in the right direction. We're getting tied down almost 6 months before his contract's up. Another positive to sort of hang on to at the minute.
Yeah, it is. Victor signing on for another 2 years. It just goes to show he's happy here. And it just feels settled. I know there's been an upheaval with more or less the complete management team, but it just goes to show that at least in the goalkeeping department, we've got it. And one of the keepers has gone, yeah, I'm willing to commit to this. And he has. And yeah, Victor's signing on for another 2 years. Fantastic stuff. As Twitter did his usual upbeat, happy days sort of thing, which is nice to see during the current spell, shall we say. The Stella, Victor holding the Stella meme was out, the Viking memes are out, and it was just a little bit of a nice vibe on Twitter for a change. And then it comes round to the Ipswich game and it's like a vat of acid. It wasn't nice after that game. But yeah, Victor signing on, brilliant stuff. I still owe him that beer, actually. Need to remember that for postseason.
Yeah. And we went through a spell, Will, of having non-Rotherham keeper. Obviously, we're 4 seasons of loans or whatever. It feels like we've got somebody who's ours, obviously, because he is ours. But like Danny says, he feels settled. He's a great keeper, and he's still got room to improve. He's not the perfect goalkeeper yet. He made a mistake yesterday for the 3rd goal, I think, the Freddie goal. He's not the perfect keeper, so he's not even at his ceiling yet, which is obviously great news for us as well.
Of course, yeah. I mean, Danny says that he owes him a pint. I think we all do after the season that he's had so far. He, for me, has been one of the top 5 championship keepers of the season so far, and but for Victor, we would be in a lot worse situation than we currently are. So thank you to Victor for signing the contract. It's a shame that some of his mates couldn't have done the same thing. Also worth saying, it's a 2-year deal, and if he continues to perform the way that he is, he's going to have admirers for his signature in the summer. This will now allow us to, recoup a decent figure if we were able to, if he is going to leave the club at some point. So good that we have got that solidity in terms of him signing the contract, and hopefully he's here for the full duration of 2 years, because we'll have a great keeper if that's the case. If not, we're finally going to get some money for a player, which is nice to be able to say.
Makes a change. Let's go back to the start down in the lineups. The almost surprise omission was Dan Barlaser. Now I say sort of a surprise. It's not a surprise because we all know it seems to be the worst kept secret. He's on his way. He's on his way out of the football club, it seems, with Middlesbrough appearing to be the destination. Sort of just your take on that, really. I suppose he had to keep him out of the squad as much as possible. He had to come on at the end, but it looks like he's on his way.
Yeah, it does. And to be fair with Barlaser, it is a step up if he does go to Middlesbrough. Like, I know it's not confirmed, but it's like unofficially confirmed by the quote-unquote in-the-know people on Twitter. But it is a step up for him. It's a step closer to home for him as well. So, with a young family and his majority of his older family being based up in the northeast, Middlesbrough is a good move for him. It's a good move for them because it's no secret that Michael Carrick likes the way Barlaser plays. It sort of suits the system that Carrick's in playing at Middlesbrough. So it just sort of makes sense. It's a gut blow for us, obviously, because Barlaser is a very good distributor of the ball and one of our better players. But at the same time, you can't really be too annoyed at it because it's a step up for him and he's not really put a foot wrong with us. And he's been a very good player for us, both on loan and then permanently. So for me, it's just like, best of luck, and off he goes. He's not leaving with any sort of ill will from any fans. He's not leaving to the noisy ones from S6. It's just like, it's a step up for you, step up for everybody involved with you. So yeah, off you go and enjoy yourself.
The rumoured fee is somewhere between £500,000 and £600,000. Is the rumour I've heard that may be off. I suppose with the timeless in his contract, I still don't think that's value, to be honest with you. I still think that's like a few £100K, to be honest with you. And I find it frustrating that he's going for that little. He's worth so much more than that. It just seems unfair.
But this is what happens when you don't negotiate your contracts correctly and you leave it this late. And he's been given the opportunity to go to a great club in Middlesbrough, who have much higher aspirations than us. He'll go on to do hopefully great things if they've got legs around him. So we'll see how he gets on. I think yesterday it wasn't really a game where he affected the game. His head's clearly not at the club anymore. So let's make some money on him and let's try and replace him. It's going to be pretty difficult given how important it has been for us over the last God knows how many years. But we need to act now. That's the whole thing. So I'm sure the club have got a plan in place. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But we'll see how we go. Yeah.
Mark Gamble says it's semi all over again. Pants pulled down. Hopefully we get a sell-on clause. Possibly, yeah. It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. We know how much. If he's got another year left in his contract, we all know how much Dan Barlas is worth, and it's in the millions. It's very, very frustrating that this is. But it's going to be probably the same situation with Chio as well, probably in this window. Hopefully we'll get some money from him rather than let him go in.
Can I just address a comment there, Matt? I can see that Lee calls us little men from Little Rotherham happy to see Dan go for bags of chips. I'm not happy to see Dan go at all. Dan's one of our best players.
Not at all.
It's a massive loss for us, but frankly, there's nothing that we can do. Like, the situation's done now. We've got to move on from it. There's no point in being angry about it because the situation's sorted.
From a footballing perspective, none of us are happy to see Dan go because he's, like I say, he's one of our better players. From a human being point of view, I'm happy to see him go because it's further in his footballing career. And that's the disconnect I'm having with it, not being a Rotherham fan. I'm looking at it as just a general football fan, and it is a step up for him. It's a step closer to home for his family, so I'm happy for him. As someone who's had conversations with Dan Barlasser and got invited out for a night out in Wickersley with Dan Barlasser when we won promotion, I'm happy for the lad as someone who I can call an acquaintance. So there you go.
There you go.
Moving on.
I feel like I need to defend both Dan and Chio a little bit because they come under a bit of stick for downing tools, Danny, and I think the head's turned a little bit, and I think that's fair to say. But I would think it's also, again, taking off my Rotherham United hat to make them both play yesterday when Dan's on the verge of a move to double his money or whatever it's going to be. I know he had to play, but it's almost a little unfair because if he takes a whack on his ankle and is out for a month, that's that move done. His move's in jeopardy and he's moving, that type of thing. So I feel the need to defend them a little bit from that side of things. Because we all see bits on social media, but it was a little bit hard, I imagine, for those playing yesterday.
Yeah, if they are close to moving away, again, separating themselves from the Rotherham United perspective, yeah, from a footballing perspective, it would have been hard because they're going out with moves potentially in the works, thinking if I get injured, that could jeopardise any sort of move that's on the table, fabricated or otherwise. So, yeah, I can see that perspective, but from a Rotherham United perspective, as it stands right now, they're still our players and they're employed to play for us until they're not. So, yeah, from a Rotherham fan perspective, they've been put on the pitch, they need to put their all in, but from a separate perspective, you can understand why they might have been a little bit, what's the words? A little bit apprehensive, about really getting stuck in. So I can see both sides of this argument.
Yeah. Let's go back to the game. We'll pick out any of the goals, I suppose. Let's talk about the penalty. The first penalty where Wes pulled a really silly thing. I don't understand what Wes is doing here. He's got a big handful at shirt in full view of the referee. Wes is having a bit of a stinking time, to be honest with you, recently. And this again was another point to it. It was a really silly thing to do when we had a little bit of a foothold in the game as well.
So, yeah, I mean, I've always said that Wes Harding is Mr. Consistent, and unfortunately, he has been consistent recently. He's been consistently awful. The decision making for that first penalty, it's really basic defending. Get in front of your man, make the header, and the danger's gone. But he lets Freddie get in front of him. He then starts to pull at his shirt. The referee's got a full view of it. It's soft, I think. Freddie's looking for it, but at the same time, it's a penalty. Tucked it away really well, and that's the situation, isn't it? That's what we're in. And when you are playing all these games at the moment, we don't have the players in the squad to be able to change it up and drop these players that aren't performing for the shirt or aren't performing, on the pitch. That's the most disappointing thing at the moment. So yeah, disappointing. Hopefully he'll learn from it, but it's happening all too often at the moment.
Yeah, it's a theme. The defensive performance all around, Danny, was poor. The defence for me would be for the fourth. With the penalty, the fourth one. There was another penalty for the fourth, weren't it? The one that was outside the area, anyway.
Yeah.
Mick's not here to give us a proper Mick rant, and I accept that this wouldn't have made a difference because we were garbage anyway. But it was outside the area, weren't it, Danny?
Yeah, we
kind of help there, I think.
We managed to get it on in the pub via an iPad and someone buying a pass on ESPN to watch it, and so we had the I say as live because there was a big 5-minute delay. Like we'd be watching something that would pop up on the telly on Final Score or whatever it was, and it's like, oh, we've conceded sound. But yeah, the first penalty was a very, very soft one. Like we all went slightly nuts that it wasn't a penalty. It was very soft, very soft. I've slept on pillows that have had harder challenges on him than that. But then the next penalty, it was just like it were outside the area. The contact is outside the area and is falling into the box. So as you can imagine, everybody was going apoplectic. So personally, I'd like to apologise for any diners that were in the rinkers as we were going nuts at our little iPad. But that doesn't excuse the defensive performance, to even give the referee the decision to be making a potential penalty call, even though the contact was outside the box. It's like, should be smarter than that. But we've seen our defensive performances over the last few games, and they've just not been up to standard, have they? I think that's all you can really say. They've just been not up to standard. We know we can play better than that, and it's just gone out the window. And I'm just going to think on my feet a little bit here. Since we played Luton, we've conceded 1, 4, 7, 9, 11, 14, 18 goals since we played Luton. It's not good.
No.
Not good at all.
No. Yeah, it's not. And Willie, obviously, the first episode you've been back for as well, but let's sort of stick on that theme. How do you see it? What do you see as the problem in terms of the goals? It's obviously not as easy as just saying it's X, Y, Z because Matt Taylor would have fixed it. But what's your view on it? Because we barely had a half of good defensive performances since the World Cup. It's been abject in almost every minute. But that's so different, isn't it? It's so different from earlier on the season as well.
There's a number of issues at play here, and there's some people that will point to the manager. There will be some people that point to the players. Just going to touch on the manager if I can to start with. I think outside of probably Crawley, this is probably the hardest job in the EFL at the moment. And the reason that I say that is if you stay up with Rotherham United this year, you're doing exactly what the fans expect you to do, right? Most people think you haven't achieved anything. If you go down, then you've not achieved anything, you've been relegated. A good example of that is if you look at Preston and you look at Ryan Lowe, he's got that team, their bottom 6 budget, and he's got them mid-table. Is he being talked about as one of the managers that's going to be getting one of these top jobs in the Championship? No, he's not. And that's just the reality of the situation. We are one of those teams that are expected to struggle with a League One squad, a manager that previously was able to get the best out of the squad and allow us to compete, to be organised and to compete at this level. And for me, the players are not buying into what Matt Taylor is about at the moment, in terms of we don't have the organisation that we had before under Warney. For whatever reason, and that's both in open play and also, more concerningly for me, in set pieces. I can't remember the last time we won a first contact for a free kick or a corner, and we're conceding a lot of chances off the back of that, where, conceding at the moment 15 shots a game again on our own goal, and that's a recipe for disaster. In terms of what we change, well, at the moment, the attitudes has got to be the first thing that we look at. The players now, if you don't want to work for Matt Taylor, that's fine. Well, it's not fine, but it is what it is. What you do need to work for is your own personal pride, and also for the fans that are paying so much money to get out, 215 of us yesterday, to come down to Ipswich and get behind the team. Like, it's not been good enough, to be honest. And I sit here almost to a level of apathy, to be honest. I sort of expected yesterday to come. So yeah, really disappointed with that. We need to sit back and look at ourselves a little bit and see that, the personnel really hasn't changed a lot, and it's been difficult. It's been difficult in terms of injuries, and we certainly need some help in January with this. But yeah, that's sort of where I'm at the moment. Yeah, I agree. I basically agree with everything you said, mate. It's tough. It's so tough at the minute. I started feeling, we talked last week, Danny, about Matt Taylor's post-match against Millwall, which we all thought was poor. Sort of throwing the players on the bus a little bit, but I genuinely felt sorry for him yesterday, because Sir Will's right. The players are not buying into it. I don't think the players are playing for him. They're not his players. If he'd signed all 20 players and they weren't playing for him, well, that's his. That's it. That's down to him. They're his players. He's inherited a player. I've got Mark Gamble's here. We've got a team built for the previous manager to play the previous manager's way. Matt Taylor's got a different way of playing, and it's going to take time to change that to his own style. But he doesn't have the time, and the players are clearly not buying into it. And right now, I couldn't tell you exactly what Matt Taylor's trying to do, because it's a bit all over the shop. But again, that's maybe down to the players a little bit not buying into it. I agree. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place. What does he do? Because he can't go and sign 12 players this window. It's unrealistic. But that's what he needs. What I would say is there's a lot of people that are trying to say that we are trying to become more of a passing team. And I think he does want us to be a little bit more technically better on the ball. But what I have noticed is there's a lot of opposition players that are more than happy to give us the ball, because we know that we aren't good enough on it and we don't know what to do with it. Like, it's become part of the opposition's plan to just give us the ball because we can't use it. Like, we're not a threat. We don't have that focal point, and he's spoken about that in his interviews. The physicality just isn't there anymore. Apart from Woody at the moment, I can't see anyone that is going to win a header from a set piece. So they do need some help, and they need that investment, which I'm sure has been mentioned quite a lot on the show recently. It's time that Tony put his money where his mouth is for once, rather than talking about it.
Absolutely, but the way I look at it is this: Will, if Taylor's willing to go on record and say what he said about the players, number one, imagine what he said off record to the players, and number two, if he's that brutally honest with the players, I think he's the man to really have Tony around the collar and go, "This is what we need to do," and just tell him straight. Which, if he needs investment, hopefully he gets it out of him. I say hopefully, because we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. We are just humble fans. But I really do hope it's getting through to him.
Yeah. Well, let's wait and see, won't we? Let's talk about Matt Taylor a bit more. Adam Carcass, I think this is in relation to some people calling for Matt Taylor to go, which we might as well cover. Our previous manager, he says, was given 6 years, 3 relegations. Surely Matt Taylor's leave at least a window or two. I still think, Danny, that Matt Taylor's the right man. I don't agree with a couple of things he's said, a couple of things he's done. I don't necessarily like the way we're playing at times, but I still think he is the right man to progress the football club. If he can somehow build a miracle and keep us up, I think he can move us on a little bit. I think it will be foolish to sack him. Foolish is maybe underplaying it a little bit, to be honest with you. He's got to be given at least the season, at least another window. For me, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, we've said this quite a bit. The average is like you have 2 windows to really start to have your own team coming together. And Matt Taylor's not even had one. Well, he's in his first one as Rotherham manager. And just going by his track record at Exeter, it does take a bit of time. He likes to promote from within, but at the same time, he knows the players that suit his system, but can also operate in a fairly tight budget. And that suits us down to a T. The only difference is Exeter are fan owned and we're chairman owned. But just to put into the whole January transfer thing, we have heard rumblings that there are going to be maybe 2 additions this week, maybe 2 more if we're lucky before the Blackburn game. So if that's coming from Matt Taylor himself and being reported as him saying that, hopefully that is quite far in the pipeline and the start of his transfer window. And hopefully it's players that can improve us.
Well, hopefully.
But I agree completely. To jump the gun and sack Matt Taylor more or less now or even after his first window would be foolish. It'd be more foolish to sack him than bring somebody else in who is also going to struggle. It'd be sort of the Redfern situation all over again, but this time we don't have Neil Warnock to save us.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But he's off doing his show. He's not going to come back unless he's like, I don't know, like Steve McQueen trying to jump over border like I'm here again, sort of thing. But yeah, I think to sack Taylor would be jumping the gun like the Redfern situation without the Warnock to come back. It's very unlikely that he would.
Yeah, John Morrell says in terms of additions, it's got to be quality additions. Though if they are just League One players, it's a pointless exercise. But that's the thing, Will. Our budget is almost a League One budget. So, again, Matt Taylor's stuck again, almost been rocking our place because, we all want Championship players and better than we've already got, but are they available within our price range?
Of course. I mean, we're not going to sign Championship quality players because there's 20 or 23 other teams that will have a budget that's higher than ours, which is, that's the situation that we're in. In terms of Taylor, I think he's got 2 options, really. The first option is to sack him now, to get a new manager in and to give him the transfer window that he wants. Otherwise, if he sacks him after January, he's not going to have the players that he wants, and we're going to be in this same situation until the end of the season and into next season as well. Or he backs him, which would be the easier of the 2 options. He's got to pay the money, but I think what will happen with Tony is he will try and do this as cheaply as possible. He will probably sack Matt Taylor off the back of the results that he gets from not having the players at his disposal that he needs to try and cover his own arse. Is my honest thoughts on the situation. I don't want to make this all about Tony Stewart and getting rid of Tony Stewart because for me there are bigger issues at the club. You look at Crawley at the moment and you see, what's going on there, and it could be a lot worse than the situation that we're in, to be completely honest. So be careful what you wish for on that front. But unfortunately for me, if he can't afford to fund where we're at the moment, then he does need to be looking for alternative investment, and that's what it comes back to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just want to add in the people who have gone to the extreme of the complete Tony out brigade. Who's going to come in for investment? Because it's all well and good calling for the chairman to go. Who does he sell it to? Who would be willing to chuck the money in, as in like short term, right now, sort of thing?
Well, let's wait and see.
Unless you've got a bidder lined up to sell the club, or at least begin the process of searching for it, it's going to take a lot longer than just going, he's not invested, let's sack him off and get someone in by February. It's going to take a lot longer than that.
It is, But then the argument that some people would put forward is that there was investment last summer. The investment was reportedly there last summer, or just before, or just at the end of last season. We've said before that may have been the perfect time, sailing off into the sunset with the Papa Johns and the League One in his back pocket, and then selling on to somebody else. It didn't happen. We're now a bit less attractive, aren't we? I suppose maybe not massively less attractive, but we are a bit less attractive now because we're on a way back down very briefly.
Shall I give Ryan Reynolds a ring about my chain club idea with us, Wrexham and Inverness?
Yeah, why not? Do it. Obviously, we're going to preview the Blackburn game later on next week, on next episode. Sorry, but there's pressure on now. You look at social media, the unhappiness is building, Danny. Not necessarily towards Matt Taylor, there is some, but it's towards what's happening with the club. And I feel like that we're in a bit of a time now. It's a big week. Dan Barlas is probably on his way. Chio could be on his way, although I think that's a bit further off than we think. That money that goes in has got to go back out. If we sit here on the 31st of January, having built, let's just say 1.5 million. I think it'd be less than that, but let's just say 1.5 million for those two players. And Matt Taylor's only been allowed to use freebies and loans. There are some huge questions to be asked because we're a well-run football club. We're our own football club. We don't really lose much money. There's not much investment coming in because of that. That's fine. So when you've got an extra 1.5 million quid, it has got to go in the situation we're in. And if it doesn't, well, where do we go from there?
Yeah, at least you hope it's going to be a saloon door situation where it swings one way and then swings other straight away. It's just a tricky situation because, we are on a slide and we need that little prop up to stop the slide. And if we get a bit of money for them players and we do recruit correctly, then, it could help us out in that situation. But it just seems to be like everything just keeps going down. It's like, a slumping form. Barlas are going, Norton Cuffy's got recorded and got sent straight out to Coventry. Then we've got Scott High going, so it's definitely more outs than we've heard incoming. So it does put a little bit of doubt in your heads. But as someone who was a training journalist, it's like, juicy January transfer window.
Yeah. Yeah, but we'll say you've just two freebies hopefully early on the week, and then the loans. Sam Hadfield says he's heard 750k for Barlas. So
although with the freebies and loans thing, like I know Matt Taylor did say that initially, but hasn't he come out and said that there is money going to be thrown at it, or have I imagined that and dreamt it?
I haven't heard that. If you said that,
I may have dreamt that.
Okay, I hope you're right. But
it was said. Yeah, it was said.
Thank God.
Thank God. Okay. Well, let's hope it pans out. I wouldn't put any money on it. But we'll have to wait and see. There's obviously questions coming in about it. Jamie says, "What are your thoughts on Brook Norton Cuffy leaving?" Well, it's a shame because there's a player in there. I'm not sure Matt Taylor's the right man at the right time to get out of him. So that's what we've seen. But he'll go on to have a great career. I've no doubt about that. But it's just wrong time, I think, with us.
Yeah, I mean, he showed elements of promise. I think certainly his forward play is not too bad. I just think defensively and for what we need at the moment, he's not quite right. Kyoso and probably Harding are a step ahead of where he is at the moment. I think physically he's got to improve as well. But he's a young kid. He's got a long future in the game, and I'm sure he'll do really, really well. It's he's provided us with some decent moments so far. Wish him all the luck in the future. But yeah, another loan spot available. Let's see what we can get in.
Yeah, he gone to Coventry, who also lost in the third round of the FA Cup. They lost to non-league Wrexham. It makes us look a little bit better. They're considered 4 as well, so it makes us look a tiny bit better, I suppose. Let's touch on the Scott High situation because this has turned into an absolute mess. We were obviously told that Scott High had gone back to Huddersfield. Officially, no, he hasn't. He is still being paid by our club, and he's taking up a current loan slot. I think Paul Davis reported today that is going to be sorted shortly. Danny, but it's it's just another moment of chaos. We're 8 days into the window now when he could have gone back on the 1st, and we're still paying his wages or whatever the case may be. It's just a bit of a joke, that side of things, really.
Yeah, it's a proper fiasco. That's where your questions need to come in: as why have we got until the 8th of January and he's still on our books rather than gone back to Huddersfield? If he wasn't part of the system, you're right. He should have gone back on the 1st. Should have been an immediate either cancellation or recall from Huddersfield. But we've let it drag out. I don't know if that's an issue our end, an issue Huddersfield end, whatever it is. We probably won't know the details. But it's just like, it's took you 8 days and we're only just like, yeah, it'll get sorted now. Even though we know from stuff with Paul Davis that he's not really been part of training. But at the same time, he's still our player, even though he's like not training with us. But Huddersfield, it's very confusing. It's a proper merry-go-round situation, that, and something that doesn't instill confidence in you.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah, it just screams Rotherham United to me, and I don't know why. It just does. Just get it. Yeah, disappointing. Shelley IFC on a couple of names that have been linked. I might as well touch these. Shelley IFC says that Tyler Blackett, Clinton Mola, Indiana Vasilev, I think that's how you say it, are the name that they've seen thrown around. I've heard Blackett been touted around today, and Mola. I got that right. Vasilev is a new one to me. But I've lost John's comment. John Morell, the Birmingham fans, that Tyler Blackett said is one of the worst defenders he's ever seen at Birmingham. So thanks, John.
Uh-oh.
Cheers for that, mate.
Yeah, we are pressing the no button on that one. Thank you.
Vasilev is currently at Aston Villa, has been on loan to Inter Miami for the last couple of seasons. I'd need to look into. We did look at it, but I don't know anything about him, to be honest with you.
I spoke to a Villa fan that I know very well. His words were, "I'll come back to you with more information, but don't get excited." So,
brilliant. Yeah, we've got loads of people throwing names right. It could be anybody. I suppose we see Michael Hector's been mentioned here. Oliver Darnell says two midfielders, George McEachran and Dion McGee. There's lots and lots of names being thrown around. Let's sort of wait and see. If all goes well, we'll be sitting here on Tuesday. We'll do the podcast on Tuesday, but we'll be sitting here with hopefully 2 players on the books. Maybe one out of the door. We'll have to sort of wait and see on that one. I don't know.
I know this is a little bit pushing boat out here, lads. But if we make some sort of absolutely extortionate signing, that's like, well, where's that come from? Shall we put in the emergency podcast on?
I will say
it's so unlikely to happen. It might be worth it.
If we make a club record transfer this window, we will do an emergency pod. That's the deal.
Or if we sign an ex-international player, how about that?
What level of international? Because if you tell me it's like Georgian or
no, as in like former top 10 country for like former player.
We'll play it by ear, but I'm willing to.
Well, that's current countries. Current countries ranked within the top 10, and they used to play for one of them top 10 countries.
I could be convinced, Danny. Let's wait and see what it is.
All right.
Yeah. I'm not doing like a Jamaican international or anything like that. Yeah. Those names, Danny, we've all seen a few names linked. How do they make you feel in terms of, do you think they're better than what we've got? Do you think it's a step up? Something we don't know anything about, but some of the names we've all seen. How do they make you feel? Because I'll just let you know how I feel on it. I feel that they're panic signings. And I know we maybe are in a panic situation, and I hope I'm turned out to be wrong. But some of the names we've seen banded around are almost championship journeymen. I don't fancy most of them, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat. Like some of the names we've been sent with potential links, it's a bit of a really, you know, like, I mean, yeah, there is a mix of experience and youth in there. For example, with what's he called? Sorry, I mentioned earlier, Mola, was it?
Mola, he's at Stuttgart, isn't he? He's been on loan at Blackburn.
Yeah, been on loan at Blackburn. Apparently, he's not really impressed that much at Blackburn. So Stuttgart ran about recalling him. So, yeah, that's a potential youth option. And then you've got the likes of Hector, who is one of your more experienced players. But I do agree, Matt. Some names that we've been passed along, it's a bit now then. That might not necessarily improve. It's a bit of they know the division and upwards. So it's a bit, yeah. None of them have filled me with a lot of confidence, but I can sort of see why we'd go for a mix of experience and youth, and obviously players that play more of Taylor ball than the other guy.
Yeah. John Reynolds says Hector would be a decent signing. Isn't he on a hefty wage? Or is getting confused with something else? I think it probably was previously. I think it was at Fulham. I think there's a few injury issues. Signing players with injury issues again. Rotherham United. Yeah. Well, just again thoughts on those players linked. I mean, maybe these are the players just to sort of get in, so we've got players on the books almost. But the players we mentioned are defensive players, and I know defensive is bad, but we've got a reason. It's one of the areas what's sort of well stocked in central defence. Maybe just up to the quality he thinks.
It's true. I think, as far as I'm aware, Blackett can play on the left of a back three, so that could help us. I know Sam's mentioned that he'd be quite interested to get some experience in from the Championship, and he's played quite a lot for Reading, I believe. So could be a box tick there. Same with Hector. He's obviously played for them down the road. And did really well. I think the only concern that I've got in terms of bringing in those free agents is we need people to come in and hit the ground running now. I'm not sure from a fitness point of view where those guys are at. Obviously, both of those players should be technically good enough to go straight into the side because of what they've done previously, but I'm not overly convinced, to be honest.
No, me too. And that's a concern. But we'll see. We may be upset about it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Russ Fern just want to take this. Russ Fern says hopes Mick's okay. Surprised he's not here tonight. Yeah, Mick's fine. He's probably listened to this, to be honest with you. He said he was going to try and listen live. So if anybody wants to give Mick some grief, please do so. We'll pass it on. For not appearing tonight, that's absolutely fine. Danny, back to the game briefly. The most predictable thing happened. Freddie Ladapo scored. It was almost as nailed on as us losing the game and going out of the FA Cup. But Freddie scored, and at least he didn't do any shush celebration or anything like that. I suppose that's a positive.
I mean, there weren't really that many Rotherham fans to do the shush celebration too, were there? But yeah, he sort of cooked. He did the sort of thing he did to us weirdly, where he sort of cups his ears to his own fans, as if to go make some noise for me, which he did to us when we sort of knew he wasn't happy here anyway. But yeah, Freddie scored. If you'd have got a bet on that, he was virtually nailed on to come in. Once Freddie scoring against us, I think it was the moment was took away from him a little bit that it wasn't the previous manager who was still managing us. I think that would have been even sweeter for him. So, way Freddie, unlucky. But my final thoughts on the game is fair play to every fan who made the trip down and watched us lose 4-1 to a League One team. How many did you say it was, Will? About 215, sorry.
215 in total, yeah.
I mean, that's not bad, to be fair. That's more or less what we took on Tuesday nights when we played at Portman Road about the last few seasons. So, yeah, fair play to everybody who went down. Just is what it is. Let's try and move on now.
Yeah. Jamie says he lives with a Wednesday fan, and seeing Freddie score and then they won. He went to work a night shift. He had a great Saturday, did Jamie? Poor lad.
It should be in my uni group chat. There's me, the lone Rotherham fan, with Wednesday fans and Sheffield United fans, and then a sprinkling of Leeds and York put in there as well. So we've had a very fun group chat because they've all been talking about Blades drawing Wrexham, and I'm just there sat like, what's the fourth round? The competition ends after the third round for us,
Yeah. Well, this may be a record. I can't imagine many clubs have a worse third round record than us. We've gone out in the third round 37 times in our 96 FA Cup campaigns. A third of the time we go out in the third round. I don't know what it is about that round. Something just seems to stop us going through. We're now up to 20. It will be at least 23 years, I think, since we last made it to fourth round next season. it's just a bit of a. It's just one of those strange things. But one day we'll know what the fourth round is like again. Hopefully, whether that's anytime soon, I don't know. Sam Hadfield wants a question, and we'll move on to sort of that FA Cup's done. Do we stay up? Well, difficult to answer now at the start of the transfer window. We'll have a better idea in whatever it is, 3 weeks' time when it ends. How much confidence do you have that we'll be in the Championship team again in August?
Sam wants a one-word answer. Very easy for me. No. Not even close.
I agree. I would hoping you were going to pull something out and say, well, this is why, but no, I agree.
It was put to me that over the last 10 games or so, we've been the worst Championship side in Championship history, and I'm struggling to disagree with it. So that's probably where I'm at the moment.
Surely we can't be worse than the 16-17 season.
Well, that's open for debate for everyone.
Yeah.
Surely we've got more points in that season anyway, so we're already better, even though we've had an absolute nosedive.
We are, but we went the way. I know we've got beat a few times, but it feels like now we're getting battered all the time. Not just from goals, from performance point of view. We're not laying a glove on opposition. There were times in that season where we caused other teams problems. In the last 10 games or so, it's been, like I said, I mentioned it a few times. We were rolling out the red carpet for these guys. And that's the frustrating thing. We talk about the Rotherham United way. Other clubs have certain ways, Rotherham United ways to make it difficult for the opposition. And they couldn't have had it easier. And I know Ipswich are a good League One team, and they're probably going to be a Championship team come August, Danny. But that was easy for them. That was so easy. Other than that brief period, it was so easy for a League One team.
Yeah, it was. And that's where the worry comes from for me. It's like, for a League One team to say, oh, that's not even our Championship test, it's a bit, actually, they've got a point. Like, as much as it induced rage, that comment, it's like, actually, if you think about it, they have got a point. And as it stands right now, in our current form, it's probably mid-table League One if you carry that on over the course of a season. But for us in the Championship, it does need sorting very, very quickly for me, because personally, I still think we stay up if we sort it. If we sort it, we stay up. If we don't sort it, to our Championship, see you in a few years.
A few years. Yeah. We've not got this. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. That's a whole issue, a whole other issue in it. John Morell said it depends on the other teams down there and their business, but I'm struggling to find 3 teams worse right now. But big January ahead. Yeah, a lot of them are doing the business. I know update on Cardiff I've seen today that they obviously had anybody didn't know Cardiff had a transfer embargo for one reason or other from FIFA, so they weren't allowed to sign anybody. There are rumours that will be removed. They'll be paying them money they needed to pay. So Cardiff could very well be back in the business of signing players, which again we'll probably see them pull away from being in any sort of bother as well, which is, from our point of view, is a shame for them. For their point of view, is obviously fantastic news.
I've also heard that they're quite keen on getting Mr. Warnock back to manage them until the end of the season. So,
okay, give Warnock a bit of money to spend in January to get a couple of players in. They'll be sailing. So yeah, I was hoping that they would that would sort of sink him a little bit, but it's obviously unlikely to do so. Dundee says we will not be relegated. I like the positivity.
Yeah, it's confidence. Love it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It's difficult to find a way forward from this. I don't know where to sort of start and go with it, because we've just seen so little to get excited about, Will. I feel like we're relying too much on transfers, and that's not a stupid thing. But can 4 signings in a week make such a difference ahead of a Championship game? Does it boost the mood? We're clutching at straws, I know, here, but
you never know, do you? I mean, the levels. I can't remember what we're going to say. This is awkward. Can you go to Danny?
I'll go to Danny. I'll go to you on this one. Chris Wright says he needs to change the tactics. Simple as.
Oh, Will, please don't take this wrong way, but I heard the cogs grind to a halt during that sentence.
Yeah. Well, every day of my life, mate.
We need to take some at fundraising pot and get Will some WD-40. But yeah, anyway, the four potential signings coming in does have somewhat of a potential to change it up, because it's 4 new bodies in, 4 new application of Taylor's ideas, and a little bit of a right, you lot aren't putting the shift in, so you know, and we're Matt Taylor signing, so we're going to put the shift in, and it might lift them up a bit if you think about it in the psychological sense. But at the same time, with the players we've still got out injured, the players potentially moving on, it's like, will 4 be enough? That's my 2 cents. Will 4 actually be enough? Probably not now.
John Morrell says they signed Bilic, Hannibal, Chong in the last 2 weeks of the summer transfer window. Made an absolute difference. Made a difference. So 4 signings, yes, can make an absolute difference. If we get players of those sort of levels, then absolutely. But yeah, Russ Vernon says under previous coaching staff, he thinks Rotherham would have stayed up. However, under Matt Taylor, I don't think the Millers will stay up. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. This was one of those things. I think we've covered everything from the last few weeks, to be honest with you. I don't know. Is there anything else you boys want to mention, or topics, comments you want to bring up? We're going to probably run short this time, but is there anything else we feel like we didn't want to mention of Rotherham United related at the moment?
Not from my end, as far as I'm aware.
Cool. Danny, is there anything else you want to mention?
Big run of games coming up now. Starting with Blackburn at home. Yay!
Well, we will. We've got 2 games and then a break, and then it'll be a run. So because it was a Sunderland game was on the 28th, that will get postponed because they had made it to the 4th round. So we've got Blackburn and Watford, who even if we were on a good run of form, you'd say that's 2 tough games to come up against as well. Going into that, we've got the current issues. Yeah, Charlie Ewing Hawks with a little bit of positivity saying we'll stay up. I hope you're right. Let's call it a day, because we would just be going over all ground as things now. I think we're at a point where we're waiting for transfer news to sort of go from there, really, and then we can give a bit more discussion, really. So thank you all for being with us on this evening. We've got a bit short, but that gives you an extra 10 minutes to speak to your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, whatever. Just go through something positive in that time. Please do subscribe if you haven't done already on the YouTube channel. We're creeping up to I think 835, something like that. If you haven't done already, please do 900 before the end of the season if you possibly can. If you're on audio, iTunes, Spotify, please make sure you subscribe on there as well, because we will be back soon. We'll be back on Thursday evening for the live YouTube show, where we'll be previewing Blackburn Rovers and hopefully at least 2 free signings. Maybe the loans will be in by then. We will have to wait and see. Let's see what happens. Danny, it's been a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Yep, always a pleasure. I'm going to have to get my boots clean for Saturday because apparently I'm playing up top.
Cool. And Will, a pleasure to have you back with us, mate, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you all again on the next episode of Thursday. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! Mule with it, Wood's got round the back, and Richie Wood has done it again! The magic man has come up with another trick! Well, here's a chance to seal it, it's done! It's Georgie Kelly!